I say that the ones who now support Israel, there are only two possibilities. Number one,
I'm glad there's two.
Number one, they are willfully ignorant.
There's only one.
They are willfully ignorant of what's happening. And I would say that's a very, very small minority of people, simply because of the sheer amount of 4K documented images of what is happening today in Gaza. Where's the sympathy for 100 million of my fellow, community?
I have total sympathy with that.
But Tony, the point here is that these very same people who you claim have sympathy for the Jews because of the Holocaust, therefore they justify the horrors that are happening, are the same people who are not even aware of the 100 million Indians that were killed between 1880 and 1920. It doesn't even compute. And that's why I'm saying it's racism.
If we hide from that in our own nature and other people's nature and mask it behind lesser problems like racism, and racism is a problem, no question, we'll miss the ball. We won't really solve the problem. We'll only deal with surface issues instead of
I'll tell you why you're wrong,
issues.
Tony, on this point.
Okay.
Because let's now, for example, look at these scenarios in history.
Yeah.
Okay? And let's say we had the Back to the Future DeLorean, and we could go back before these type of events, 16th, 17th century and onwards, they happened, right?
Yeah.
What would have been the major catalyst or the major, let's say, information or acceptance of that information that would probably have changed dramatically the outcome for those people of color?
Oh, go on. What?
It would have been that they have an equal right to you, and they are equal to you.
Yeah.
And just as you have a right to your property, they have a right to their property.
Right.
Because they're not lesser than you, and therefore to go and treat them in an unequal way is a huge injustice.
Right. Now, do you not see that we're saying the same thing?
In other words, don't be racist.
Okay. I'm not for 1 second promoting racism. I hope
No,
clear.
of course you're not.
Okay, fine.
I'm not saying you are.
Right, so now let me take...
Listen, Tony, I know you enough. I know you enough to know that you're not some rampaging
good.
racist. I know that about
so let
you.
me now try and model what you said into something which I think synthesizes what we're both saying. Yes, I think you're correct. If you de-escalate a belief in racism, you will definitely help to offset the problem, yeah? But I think the way that's working, you have hardwired human nature that wants to be greedy and acquisitive and exploit. We also want to be wonderful, we want to do both. We're tempted, yeah? That's the dynamic thing coming outwards. What will stop the dark part that wants to exploit people is a counter-argument which goes, no, those people are equal to you, you can't do it. Yes. So by invalidating racism, you create a barrier, but that's the defensive barrier against the eternal dynamic of our inner demons.
Well, I disagree with you as well, and Imran disagrees with you in terms of the predisposition of the human being to be greedy and want to perhaps acquire. I would say that, yes, we do have a love for materialism, there's no doubt about that, or material comforts. So from a young age, a child that's 2 years old, 1 year old, has a particular blankie or a particular toy that they like to covet, right? Which gives them comfort.
And kids will treat each other terribly.
It might be food or whatever it might be.
They will.
Toffee, a donut, whatever, right? So I agree. But I think what can send that desire for what we would say is halal anyway, which is permissible, to something that becomes impermissible, the thing that changes that alters that, is the concept of racism.
Okay, I get what you're saying, and now...
So it's not because...
let me get subtle.
Yeah.
I think what Abbas is saying is clearly correct, okay? I also think what I am saying is correct. I think if you want to really model what we're both saying now in a way where it all makes sense, you've got to realize it's happening in feedback loops. It's not a 1, 2, 3 straightforward thing. It's a thing where once you believe in racism, it makes it easier for you to vent the bad thing in you. And once you prevent the bad thing in you, it's easier for you to do racism. Feed the monster, as it were. So we have feedback loops of interactions. Yeah. I totally acknowledge racism is in the mix of these feedback loops.
So it becomes a significant factor.
It's a significant. I'm not saying it's not significant.
Right. More significant than anything else.
That we may disagree on, because I think the proclivity of the human heart to constantly be challenged by the light and the dark is an eternal eternal truism addressed by religions like your own, and that is the foundational drive. That's the foundational ethical dilemma all individuals face every day, and religion helps you to grapple with.
What you're really saying is that human beings can do good things.
But you guys are more postmodern,
Sure.
hey, there we go.
No, I don't think we're postmodern.
That was a joke.
That's all right. We take it in we take it light-hearted, Tony. Don't worry.
What you seem to be saying is that human beings do good things and bad things. They can do it.
I'm saying
they have the capacity.
I'm saying we're driven by whips. We're driven by the whips and carrots of our nature eternally.
And the things that
and then we frame it through these ideas like racism and culture and whatever.
So the checks and balances are what your society teaches you.
Yeah,
which is why you don't go and
nice.
And if the society is teaching you that you are superior,
yes,
you
then
have
that
the
will
right
exacerbate the ability for your negative instincts to travel.
So that's what we've been saying all along.
Okay, then we all agree. So we need.
Guys, let me just say my sentence.
Sorry,
you guys like to talk.
No, it's me.
You're too nice.
I'm very sorry.
We keep interrupting.
I'm genuinely sorry.
I'm sorry as well.
Sorry.
I apologise.
It's okay. I accept your apology. And you too. So what I'm saying is that if there's no blank slate here. Your society creates the characteristics of yourself in terms of your personality and your beliefs, and that shapes the way you act and behave in the world. If you're constantly told these people are inferior, that you have the right to civilize them, teach them to... So there were times where people from Africa, children, were taken and put in zoos in the UK.
Yeah.
Where people will come along and look at them.
Yeah, it's terrible.
And because they did not regard them as human beings.
Yeah.
Now, just like people, even today, if there's a herd of cattle here and you want to build a hotel resort, you're going to drive them off. It doesn't matter because they don't understand. They're just dumb animals, and you have something bigger and
it makes it easier.
Absolutely.
To be your darker self.
When you have this dehumanization and of people based upon their color and their racial mix, and I would say we see this today. So in the very language that we have, what do you call an English immigrant in any other country? You call them an expat. What do you call a person who was of English descent in America? You call them an American. If you went to America and you moved there, you'd be an Indian American. You'd be an Italian American. You'd be all these other types of American.
Yeah.
But if you're Anglo-Saxon, you go there and you're an American. The same with Australia. The natives, the people who say that they're natives, are the people who actually came in and destroyed the natives.
Yeah.
And
often.
And when people go, and absolutely, say we see that in America, we see that in Australia, we see that all around New Zealand. We see this all the time. And the questions that get asked, even in our press, someone of a certain background, Pakistani background, does something. What's wrong with this community? Why are there so many stabbings in the black community? The criminal actions of an individual from that community become the representation of the whole community. So the negative is generalized.
It can do, but it shouldn't happen, and we've got to aspire to do better. But doing better is not very complicated.
Let me finish my point. If you have, and then we see the opposite as well. If someone from a Caucasian background, white background, does something wrong, lone wolf, mental illness, he grew up and as a sunny boy, he used to play and something happened to him.
His mum gave him cold baked beans and that's why he became...
and it's specified there is the negative action is individualized in that case and not generalized in that case. Yeah. So even our mindset and language today speaks to this same racism. That we hold even different people from different racial backgrounds to different standards.
We shouldn't.
So my point really to Tony was that if you supported South Africa, the South African regime, when it was an apartheid state, which effectively had different laws.
We had signs, no blacks allowed, no whites allowed.
And for white people, that if you supported that, by admission, you would also become racist because you're supporting a racist ideology.
Okay, so supposing that I've got massive shares in South African diamond mining.
Yes.
And intellectually, I totally believe that all races are equal. Okay.
No, but
nonetheless, it's to my personal grace. Sorry, I'm giving
a
hypothetical to test yours. If this is always true, it should, in any hypothetical thought experiment, it should carry muster. Yeah. So, I have South African diamonds. I want to keep the regime in power. It will line my pocket. And intellectually, I believe all races are equal. Nonetheless, I decide to make the ethical choice to back the South African apartheid government to line my pocket. At that point, I would argue that particular individual is making a terrible decision,
Yes.
and they're bad persons,
Yes.
but they're not actually being racist.
So in that-
It's not their rationale.
So in that case, I would say the person themselves are not necessarily racist because they don't feel that black people are inferior. However, they are happy to and willing
Exploit.
to support
Oh, fine.
a racist ideology.
Oh, for sure. Hang on. There's a very
You
big
understand my
difference between
point?
saying,
But that's
do
an
you
exception
believe
that
in...
No,
proves the
no,
rule.
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
No. You can't.
No.
Exceptions, axioms.
No,
sorry,
no,
axioms are-
but Tony,
Not really.
no, but Tony,
Exception that proves the rule. It's
no,
not.
it is.
Because you just give
No,
an
it
example
is. No.
of someone
I don't
doing.
believe in exceptions that prove
I'll tell you
rules.
why-
I believe rules are
No, but-
things which have no exceptions.
but
The more you discover an axiom which has no exceptions, the closer you are to a foundational truth. Now, what I just gave you is a long
No, but you
way
gave
from
an
being
example.
exception that proves
Tony,
the
you gave
rule.
an example of diamonds, right?
Yeah.
Let's say we take diamonds out of the picture.
So let me give you a scenario.
Sorry, go on.
Let me give you a scenario.
Go.
So there is somebody. Let's have a hypothetical scenario who believes all people are equal and feels that everyone should be allowed to have equal access to power.
Right.
And he puts his money in the same company that you put forward,
Right.
and he's getting money from that.
Uh-huh.
So that means that power is not playing. So using your analogy, then the power dynamic is not playing a role in his ethical decisions either.
Yeah, because he's just playing an equal and fair with mine. He's not trying to tilt the landscape of power unfairly to his advantage. He's being an equal player in a power dynamic. Everything is a power dynamic.
So then
There is no situation
so
where
he's-
we're interacting.
So
with
he believes everyone should be
politics
equal in
is
power.
power dynamics.
He's believed equal in power.
Yeah.
Racist, everyone should be equal in terms of different racial backgrounds are equal.
Yeah.
But he's still putting money into this company that's doing whatever they're doing to live.
Then he's ethically wrong for doing some
Okay, so
backing a company
now
that's
what is? So
exploitative.
all I've done is I've added on another negative to your example, which is removing the power dynamic as his motivation.
But I don't think that's possible. Our
There we go.
motivation is power.
Tony, you know that
It's inevitably hard.
So that's why the problem with the hypothetical is
Exactly.
that you can present any hypothetical
That's
removing
right.
the thing that you think is someone else is positing as one of the causes.
which doesn't mean it applies to everybody
It doesn't
or
mean
most
it's-
people.
it's-
That's the
I,
point.
I think every individual choice is motivated
Tony,
to some extent by power.
Tony, we can give a
Every choice.
Tony, we can give a hypothetical, but I think what
Still
we
very relevant.
should be doing exactly
Well,
what we
there's no
should.
way-
Hold on, Tony. What we should be doing. What we should be doing is we should be going by what the majority felt, said, and did,
Wow. Why?
because that's a fairer representation. That's a fairer representation of the intentions and the actions of those people. Because if you pick out a hypothetical, somebody who owns shares in a diamond mine, I would profess that was probably a very small minority of people.
It was a hypothetical.
I understand.
It's a thought experiment. It's like Einstein in the lift in space.
I understand.
Okay, so you can't
But if
not
we're
that
going to
kind
talk
of
about
hypothetical.
no, but what I'm saying to you, Tony, that the hypothetical is not representative of the masses.
It never claimed to be. That
I'm, sure,
wasn't the point.
I'm not saying that you were trying to make that claim. So what I'm trying to say, though, is that what would be more sensible is what did the overarching people, the majority of people who supported the apartheid state of South Africa, what was their drive in accepting such a regime? And it was because the white man was superior and the black man was inferior.
If you just want to keep doing
No,
that one, I
no,
guess
Tony.
you're going to keep doing it.
No, but Tony, you know what it is, Tony? Here's the thing.
What do you mean by that?
You know, but Tony,
I'm genuinely trying to make headway into a deeper,
Tony,
a deeper
sometimes
analysis, which doesn't preclude anything you're saying. It's not like I'm saying you're wrong. I'm just saying you're coming at it from one dimension. And there are other dimensions to come at it from as well, including a priori human nature and the pure power dynamic. And you can synthesize all of them into a cogent model,
Tony,
which doesn't disavow what you're
Tony,
saying. It just
in
expands it.
AA,
Yeah.
one of the biggest principles of, even beginning to start your treatment with AA. Not that I've been there because I've never drank in my life, guys. Just this is not from my personal experience. But Tony, you know what the fundamental, initial, foundational concept is to even begin the repair process of the treatment?
Is this the give me the strength and the wisdom and the serenity?
Accepting the problem in the very beginning. my name is X, and I am an alcoholic.
Okay. So
that's the most powerful thing that somebody can do. You know why? Unless you recognize the problem, you can never cure the illness. And so what I'm saying to you is that the majority of people that supported the South African regime with its oppressive tactics against the South African black people, who accepted that that regime was fine and it's good and it should be carried out, had racism running through their veins.
Well, then you've
now,
got
I'm
a
saying,
view of human nature.
I'm saying, and this is why I was talking about Palestine, that similarly,
we're better on South Africa.
No, Palestine, because Israel, which is a white colonial project, and there's plenty of evidence to support that, of a race that has gone in, that has uprooted, demonized and dehumanized the brown Arab race that lived there, and has primarily used it, not only from their scriptures, but from the very words and the ideologies that they've actually said, including this conflict, by the way, comparing them to animals and human animals, and not deserving the rights that any other human being should deserve, basically. And it's on that basis that I say that the ones who now support Israel, there are only two possibilities. Number one,
I'm glad there's two.
Number one, they are willfully ignorant.
There's only one.
They are willfully ignorant of what's happening. And I would say that's a very, very small minority of people, simply because of the sheer amount of 4K documented images of what is happening today in Gaza.
And the other?
And the other is that they are racist.
Wow, that's it.
Now, if you feel that there is another option to this, I'd love to hear it.
Well, we covered last time we spoke. I gave you 4 of the reasons why I think people are being more conflicted about this. And I said, I think the first is that there's a latent sympathy with Jews having been persecuted, the Holocaust, etc., which I think is in the mix of the equation, which means we're cutting them some slack collectively in a way that I don't think... Well, okay, there are people who... It's depressing to me that you want to frame this in racial terms.
I'll tell you why that's...
Really is.
I'll even say...
I think it's going to be counterproductive.
Imran, where's the sympathy for 100 million of my fellow, community?
I have total sympathy with that.
But Tony, the point here is that these very same people who you claim have sympathy for the Jews because of the Holocaust, therefore they justify the horrors that are happening, are the same people who are not even aware of the 100 million Indians that were killed between 1880 and 1920. It doesn't even compute. And that's why I'm saying it's racism. Now, had they applied that principle, Tony, equally to the Indians, to the Aborigines, to the indigenous populations of America, then I would say, yeah, Tony, you know what? Maybe you got a point. Maybe it's not racism. Maybe it's just the fact that they are going with what they perceive to be a people, like the Black African in slavery, that they're simply siding with those people, even though those people may be committing an injustice on the basis that they have suffered greatly in history. But guess what, Tony? They don't do that for anybody else. They just do it for the white man.
It's depressing.
It is depressing. I agree with you. I agree with you.
It's depressing you see it this way.
I agree with you.
Okay, I think instead of being reactive and negative, we should aim for positives. Positive truth. All people are genuinely
unicorns,
equal.
Tony. Unicorns. I don't believe in unicorns.
What's the unicorn that I'm
saying? Reality is more important.
No, I think reality is all people are actually equal. Okay?
I agree.
Okay, great. So we start with that. Therefore, anything which contradicts that reality, we fight. Any racist ideology contradicts that reality, therefore we fight it. So we fight these forces of racism, etc. best by keeping our eye on the ball of what is good and true, which is universal human equality. As long as you keep your eye on that ball, it'll steer you through the storm.
I agree.
And it will deal with the problems of racism. If, on the other hand, you deflect your eye from that and become reactive and start looking at negatives and framing things in terms of identity politics and
I'd say realistic and honest.
It's realistic and honest to a degree, but you're just going to end up.
My name is Tony, and I am
You're going to end up.
You need to do that first.
You're
Tony.
going to entrench people more and more, thinking of themselves as
you need
tribal.
You need to highlight the problem.
The conflict.
You need to highlight the problem for what it is. You need to highlight the problem for what it is.
I am. The problem is we're refusing to accept that we're all one species and we're all equal.
I agree, but
that's the problem.
So why do people not have the sympathy for all the other people of colour the way they have it for the Jews who suffered in the Second World War?
Hang on, I hadn't finished. Hold on. I didn't say that the Jews deserved that disproportionate level of sympathy. I was trying to rationalise how we've smoke-screened ourselves on this. Okay? What's happening in Gaza now, I condemn.
Why don't we smoke screen ourselves with the
because
other communities?
This is what people do when they make bad decisions. We lie to ourselves. Most comedy, and I think you guys like comedy, most comedy is about people standing up on the stage and going, hey, here's how I lie to myself. And we laugh because we go, yeah, I do that too. Okay? Good stand-up comedy is about that. We understand this in human nature. We smoke screen. Now, I condemn what's happening in Gaza now. The 20-1 Palestinian death to Israeli ones is clearly... And
it's not 20-1. What are you talking about?
Between 19, I've got some facts in between.
No, it's not 20-1. There's nearly 40,000, 45,000 people that are known
whatever,
to be killed.
The wildly disproportionate figure. Okay, can we agree on that?
It's a one-sided genocidal massacre.
Yeah, it's a one-sided genocide.
Am I allowed to discuss this in any other terms apart from using exactly the language?
Well, I think we should call things as they are.
Okay.
It's not about using the language.
I think...
See, one of the things...
It's amazing. I sit here and I say I condemn it and it's disproportional.
We're not questioning you, Tony.
Well, you apparently are.
No.
Why is it not enough that I say I condemn
I think you're a nice guy, and I think that you're generally very balanced, and I think you're a fair-minded individual, and I actually like you.
Yeah,
I'd love to have
likewise.
We get better conversations.
Dinner, coffee with you, Tony, I would happily have.
Thank you, and you.
I'd make you pay, but I'd have it happily. I'm just joking.
No, you have actually bought me a coffee. I think
I don't remember.
No, you do.
But Tony, when a person doesn't have that smoke screen for anybody else other than a white community of colonial power that's gone in and occupied Arab lands, that is by definition what makes it racist.
So ideals without application are just fairy stories.
I guess it's just not enough.
Tony, just concede.
I was trying to disavow.
Yield, man, yield.
No, because I just don't believe. I believe that you're genuinely entrenching people's feelings back into the tribalism, which is the very source of the problem. And the solution to the problem is to realise our common humanity. And I think this speaks to the ethical principles of most religions, including your own. So rather than being reactive, we're in an increasingly reactive society.
Why is observation entrenching?
Actually, you know what? I'll show you this. I showed it to...
Oh dear, Tony's pulling the red folder out.
Red folder out.
It's like the red briefcase that the Chancellor of the Exchequer pulls out.
No, I showed this to
you're in trouble when you see red.
I'm not trying... I'm not trying...
You know it's going to be painful when you see red.
I'm not trying to put anybody in trouble.
Why is observation entrenching? Because what we're doing is we're observing the reality.
The basic building block of reality, right, is the individual, not the collective. Because souls... Okay, I think from a God's eye view, God sees individual souls. Okay? Collectives don't have more souls than individuals. One individual gets one soul. That soul has a destiny and a journey, and God will judge it based on its choices.
Tony? Do you believe in God?
In the broadest sense, I think what I'm saying is true, and hopefully it aligns with what you believe.
No, but the
basic building block of reality.
Just out of interest, actually.
We might disagree as to what God is, but I think I'm hoping.
You believe in a higher power. You believe in a higher power.
I believe there is a God's eye perspective, which
is
the most.
Let's do the shahada and then we continue the conversation.
Let me say what I think about it. I think there is a God's eye perspective, which is the most.
Oh yes, okay.
I believe there is a God's eye perspective of reality, which is the most accurate view of reality there is. In that God's eye perspective, you have individual souls, and those individual souls are all equal. So those are the atomic building blocks of reality itself, because they make the ethical decisions. We make choices, and then we're judged on them, and we should be. That's where the battleground is. That's where the spiritual battleground is. When you lose that as being your primary focus and start heading too much into collectives, you miss the ethical centre of all of these decisions.
The problem with that, Tony, is this.
People are not living as individuals.
What you do, Tony, by doing that, is I believe you're putting the cart before the horse. And I'll tell you why, Tony.
Why?
Because if the fundamental drive is racism, and you're not prepared to tackle that head on,
right,
and you're going to say, well, it's because people are greedy, it's because people want more, it's because, and you want to try to tackle that, I think that's going to be a losing battle.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. Because if fundamentally somebody feels somebody else is inferior, It doesn't
It
matter.
makes it easier to vent your negative
I'm saying it,
emotion.
but it doesn't matter how much you tell that person it's wrong to steal or to do this or to subjugate or to oppress or to kill that person. That person's going to say, but hold on, my foundational beliefs are that he's inferior.
Yes, but
he's less human than me.
Yes, but we can rationally deconstruct those beliefs. That's how we get rid of them. We can't rationally deconstruct his impulse to behave positively or negatively because that's hardwired and inevitable. But we can deconstruct bad ideas, and racism is a bad idea. So we can deconstruct it through conversation and analysis. We can disavow you of that.
You know how you get rid of Japanese bamboo?
Go on. How?
You can't just chop it off at the top. You can't deal with the surface level things. The only way is you have to constantly plow the roots out of the land.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it simply festers and grows
we
again.
all agree we want to get rid of racism.
No, but
Okay.
I understand.
I can ideologically explain to
the
people
ideology
why
of
a
racism
really
is like
stupid
Japanese
idea.
bamboo.
Okay, it's not difficult.
What
to get
you're
rid of.
saying to me is, no, Abbas, just trim the top of it off, everything will be fine.
No, I'm not saying that at all. That's a total misrepresentation.
And I'm saying to you,
of what I'm
Tony,
saying.
what you need to do is you need to get deep
Tony,
down.
Sorry. With respect,
Get
I'm
the
totally,
spade out,
okay.
Tony.
I
Start
am
digging.
totally okay.
It might be hard,
Abbas
but you need to get digging,
Abbas,
Tony.
Abbas is unfortunately not reading me correctly. I'm not saying if you trim the top, it'll all be okay. I'm saying it'll never all be
Abbas, I'm
okay
gonna-
because
No,
you're in
no,
an
no,
eternal.
finish off with Tony now.
You're in
Because
an
I think that-
eternal.
I'll finish now.
No,
You're in an eternal battle with our own nature.
Tony,
It will never
it's been
all
lovely
be
talking
okay.
to you. I'm
It's
going
been
to
lovely
step
talking
out.
Tony, it has been lovely talking to you as well. As always.
You don't want to see my charts?
Well,
They're good.
They're very colourful, but they're all yellow.
I know they're all yellow.
Okay,
Right,
but anyway,
I
that's
showed
fine.
this to.
Let's have a quick look at your
Okay,
chart.
I showed
because
this
you've pulled them out. You're very proud of your homework.
Thank you.
Let me just quickly look.
It's nice that some people research some facts.
Have a quick look at Tony's homework here. Okay, let's have a look at your chart.
Right, so IMDb. Do you know IMDb? I showed this to Smile to Jenna.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, IMDb, Internet Movie Database.
Oh, right, no, IMDb.
Okay, right. So when you go on the Internet Movie Database, you can vote for how
Yes.
much you like a film.
Yes.
Okay? This is a chart for a particular film.
Right.
So what this is telling us is 9.2% of people, 29,000 people gave it a 10.
Yeah.
And you get a curve like this.
Yes.
So the question being asked is, how good is the film?
Yes.
And that's the response you get. Would you care to guess what film this is?
No idea.
Okay, for the record, there's four. I'm going to show you four of this. This is The Fast and the Furious,
Okay.
right? I only mention it because we all know what it is. So if you ask how good it is, you end up with a curve that looks roughly like that. Yeah? Makes sense? Okay, now, next one. What is this?
Titanic.
Titanic would be a good guess. Anyone else want to have a guess? I'm being topical. No? Oppenheimer. Okay, won all the Oscars, hugely highly rated, etc. So you can see.
Yes.
Yeah? Okay, next film. What do you think that is?
Titanic.
Yep, you're good on Titanic. No, being topical. That's Barbie. Now, what you'll notice there is it does that healthy curve in the middle, but it's more polarized at the ends because some people really didn't like it, like Ben Shapiro, and some people really did. Yeah? So you end up with that curve.
That looks quite
Right.
polarized as well.
That one is, well, you've got more of a gradient on that, yeah? Right, so here's the punchline.
Polarized, yeah.
What do you think that is?
Titanic.
That's funny. Okay, that.
I've got to get it right sometime,
Okay,
surely.
That I should go and get. I'll print out Titanic. Just
Please,
so I can bring
please
it.
do that so I can be right
Right.
at least. Yeah.
Okay, that is the question being asked is how good is this film,
Yeah.
right? And the answer being given is completely wrong because no film is that good or that bad, right? The film in question is called Israelism. Okay, it's a documentary made by some Israeli people who grew up and then started to believe or stroke realized, depending on how you look at it, they were being rather brainwashed by the Israeli government. And actually, the whole Zionist creed was.
Which ones
needed
are the Zionist
reinspecting.
supporters here?
Right, so you can, okay, now my point
Those
being.
ones, they're all wrong, obviously.
Right, they're both wrong because the question being asked wasn't do you support Israel or Palestine? The question being asked was how well made is this film? And they completely missed the question and they totally polarized it into a simple black and white. And what you need is a more textured discussion. And what we're seeing more and more nowadays are people having discussions. Okay, people are having fun. Let me give my thesis and disagree with it. What we're seeing more and more nowadays is people polarizing into simplistic camps where it's very easy to point at the opposition and go, you're wrong, because you're correct. when they look at them and go, you're wrong, they're right. There's no way that documentary is a 1 out of 10. But equally, when these guys look at them and go, you're wrong, they're right as well, because there's no way that documentary is a 10 out of 10.
Well, that analogy,
and I haven't seen
that analogy, Tony.
This is what debates have become
may
like.
Work,
it's not healthy.
Well, that might work with movies or certain other topics.
The polarization and tribalization and oversimplification of ideas.
But Tony, genocide
yeah.
is not an issue that is under debate or discussion that somebody could actually say, well, actually, you know what, in certain circumstances, genocide is okay.
The question is genocide bad? The answer is yes.
Yeah, of course. So what I'm trying to say to you is that I would suggest that you wouldn't get that disparity with certain things like genocide, like stealing, like taking something that doesn't belong to you, like subjugating or oppressing a people. So I'm saying your analogy may work with movies. It may work on other topics.
Hopefully, you don't really think that the 75 to 80 year history of what's happened in Palestine and the 14 million people currently living there isn't a somewhat complicated. It has no nuance. You think it's just totally black and white?
I believe that there are nuances.
Okay.
However, there are nuances and there are nuances.
Fine.
There are certain fundamental, foundational concepts that I think most people agree upon.
Yeah.
That the Palestinian people, whose DNA goes back to the Canaanite people over 3,500 years ago,
which I don't care about.
As a study. Well, I'm just giving you
because
some of the points that are often, or this this spectrum of opinion revolves around a people who perhaps didn't belong there. So I'm saying that DNA evidence proves that you have millions of people living in a state of Palestine who were evicted by a third people who gave the land to another people. There is no controversy in hundreds of thousands of the indigenous people, the Palestinians, being thrown out of their lands under gunpoint and their lands being taken.
What do you mean by there's no controversy?
Well,
you mean there's no people who would disagree with that?
That's
what there's no controversy means.
No, it doesn't mean that.
What does it mean?
The Nakba is widely accepted by Jewish academics.
The fact.
Jewish acceptants.
Hang on. The fact of the displacement of 750,000 Palestinians as a point of fact.
Yes.
Seems to be accepted.
Yeah.
The interpretation as to the ethics of that seems to be in dispute.
I don't think so.
As a point of fact, I think there is a dispute as to the ethics of that.
Tony,
I'm not saying that I'm in favour of it because I'm not.
Tony,
but to pretend that there is no dispute about the ethics of the thing is not a fact. It's defined as ethnic cleansing. Because it was ethnic cleansing. You're making it racist.
No, but it was. Look, Tony, I just call a spade a spade.
Just because the races were different.
It was ethnic cleansing. It's defined as ethnic cleansing. It comes under the definition of what ethnic cleansing is.
So nobody here would dispute that?
No. Somebody might say ethnic cleansing is okay to do in this.
No, I don't think ethnic cleansing is okay.
Some people might argue that, but it doesn't make it that's somehow a dispute.
Well, you said it's not. You said it's not disputed. Actually, you didn't. You said it's not.
It's consensus. It's widely agreed that it fits the definition of ethnic cleansing. So I'm saying there might be some aspects that we could have a discussion and debate about, and there are other aspects that are quite profound that I think are very black and white, where I don't believe you can have confusion on the point. But anyway, Tony, I'm getting cues to end the discussion. By all means, to be fair, you can come back last, and then I don't want to come back. I'd
like to continue again another time. Okay.
Why don't you come on one of our streams? I mean,
I'm happy to. No, thank you. You've been very charitable.
Tony,
I'm trying to aim for the good here, Abbas. Okay. I'm trying to just dig a bit deeper and throw a fly in the ointment and try and get people to look at it from other directions.
So am I. But you know what it is, Tony. Wherever you see an injustice, regardless of whether it's done by yourself or done by somebody else, the Quran tells us, O ye who believe, stand up for justice.
Agreed.
Even against yourselves.
Agreed.
Against your parents.
Agreed.
Against your kin, whether one is rich or poor.
Agreed.
Okay? So for us, if it was the Palestinian people that had removed an indigenous people and persecuted and murdered and committed genocide upon them, today I would have been speaking out against those people. Not because, oh, they're Muslim, they're Arab, so I'll excuse what they've done.
We've agreed. In 1948, I wouldn't condone the state of Israel.
Anyway.
My concern is it's 75 to 80 years later. What impact does that time have? That, to me, makes it more nuanced.
Anyway, we've had the discussion, Tony.
We've had
As
the
always,
discussion, Abbas.
as always.
Next time.
I thought it'd be like a short half an hour one.
So
but
did I didn't know
with
we were
you,
gonna do
Tony, it's always quite a long, in-depth
Well, at least,
discussion.
look, because at least they're not complete shouting matches.
No.
We have some good stuff.
Well,
so
we
thank
agree, we can disagree, that's fine. Imran, give Tony a shake, give him a shake of hands, and we can depart ways as friends.
you. Thank you. Take care. Cheers.
All right, I think that is a wrap for today. And I think it's time to pray and eat, I think, isn't it?